Welcome to the Henthorn Media podcast. If you want to jump straight into the episode, go for it. If not, stick around for my intro. We'll talk about cocktails and whatnot. The first episode is with my good friend, Kevin W. Gates. He has recorded over 3,900 songs with artists such as Never Shout Never, The Ready Set, Katie Groves, and Romance on a Rocket Ship. He's also recorded my band, along with hundreds of Midwest musicians, artists, bands, all over the world for that matter as well. Part of the show is I want to start each episode with a cocktail, and he did not disappoint and went with the classic Moscow Mule. If you want to make one at home and watch this episode, here's the recipe. Start off with a cup, preferably a copper mug. Then take your lime. Pro tip, make sure you are rolling your limes. You will get more juice out of them that way. Perfect. Cut it in half. One half will be for squeezing. The other half will be for garnish later. Take your Mexican elbow and give it a good squeeze. Beautiful. I like to give my lime a little turn halfway through and then squeeze it again. And nice. Next, we are going to take our vodka. Today is Smirnoff because we are making a classic Moscow Mule. Pour 2 ounces of vodka. Be sure to spill that first one everywhere and then use the power of editing to clean it up. Give it a try for the second one and hopefully it goes better. Yes, nailed it. Next, we are going to use our secret ingredient, which is Cock and Bull ginger beer. This was a request from Kevin and it is delicious. Add a ton of ice next, like a ton of ice, and add in your ginger beer. Here's the part of the recipe where I realize I added too much ice and ginger beer and I can no longer store my cocktail. So we're going to substitute that with this beautiful stabbing motion. We're still mixing up the ingredients and we're still getting that condensation on the cup, which is what we're looking for. Next, top it off with ice, give it a little tap, and garnish with a lime. And voila! There you go, the classic Moscow Mule. Enjoy. On that note, cheers, brother.
Cheers, sir.
Let's see.
Oh, that's delightful. You nailed that.
Thank you. That is very good.
You nailed that. I am going to give my...
That is very good. You know what's funny? And I don't know if this is why, but that does give me the same hit that we had at your wedding. That ginger cuts through. What ginger beer do we use?
We are using Cock and Bull ginger beer.
Is that what they had at your wedding?
No, it is
not.
No,
I was way off.
So, my wedding, we got married at a place called Missouri Spirits, and the gimmick of the establishment was that they made all their own spirits. So they made their own vodka, but they also made their own ginger mixers from scratch.
Scratch. It was very spicy.
They made their own spicy carbonated ginger mixer from scratch, and I think that's one of the reasons that beverage hit especially hard. But there's just something so pure about being able to trace back. And you know me, more than alcohol, I'm a soda connoisseur. I love classic ginger beers, like obviously Cock and Bull, and Fentimans is another good one. There's a ginger beer from Wisconsin called Sprecher's, which is fire brewed and aged in oak barrels and sweetened with pure Wisconsin honey. It's like one of these things like, wow, that sounds really good. And you taste it and it's got so much bite that you swear it's alcoholic, but it's not. It's just a delightful soda. And I think it comes back around to the fact that I'm just a giant kid.
Yes.
What's the Blink-182 interview where Tom says I'm a boy in a man's body?
Almost every Blink-182
No.
interview.
That was Apple Shampoo, wasn't it?
Is that the lyrics for it?
I think. I might be thinking of a different
From
song.
Dude Ranch?
Yeah, old school.
It's such a good record.
Mark Trombino.
It's so good. No, this hits, and you not being a drinker and pick the Moscow Mule is perfection.
Yeah.
Little too strong.
But also tasting this, you can see why a soda connoisseur would pick this cocktail.
It's fizzy.
It's so balanced, and it's like the ginger and the vodka blend together so delightfully. Like, this doesn't taste like a cocktail.
It's different.
It dances on your taste buds. It's unlike what you would expect to find if you go into a club and you order a drink.
No, it's sophisticated, man. It's a sipper. It's a nice Christmassy. I always drink them more around Christmas time.
Christmassy. By the way, this is being recorded December 21st.
December 21st. I think I'm gonna launch it early January.
Okay.
Yeah, 2025.
So, happy New Year's,
happy
people
New Year's.
People of the future.
Yeah. Thanks for coming for the very first episode to work out the bugs and the
You
kinks
haven't
and
even told
everything.
me what the name of this podcast is.
I don't. It's not officially named, but I'm just thinking about going right up the middle with the Henthorn Media Podcast for now.
That works.
Because it's like every time I have a new idea, because I can be a scatterbrain, it's like I'll call it this and do that, and I'm just trying to make everything one thing.
I'm not laughing at you for saying that you're scatterbrained because I believe that you're scatterbrained, and that's an understatement. I'm laughing at you because you are outwardly one of the most organized people that I've ever met.
You think so?
But also, I notice how I said outwardly because look at your little notebook right there.
Yes.
I
brought notes.
Your little lay flat notebook.
Yes.
You're someone who identifies what their weaknesses in organization are and attack them accordingly.
Yes.
And so because of that, there are lots of outward quirks about your mannerisms that show your desire to overcome them.
That's very accurate.
Yeah.
You're like a doctor.
I'm not a doctor because on the opposite end of the spectrum, my brain is very akin to the tornado scene in The Wizard of Oz. There's monkeys and a weird lady on a bicycle. Like, this is all flying around in my head every day when people are talking to me. This is what is going on inside. And the fact that I can understand and interpret meaning to any spoken words that are presented in front of me is kind of remarkable.
Do you have one of those brains that you feel like it's... Because I always said, like, if Sarah, my wife, had my brain, I think she'd be terrified. Like if she could have my mind for a day, she'd be like, oh my gosh, like, it doesn't stop thinking. Because she can fall asleep, like, when we go to bed in, like, a minute. Like, she's just a very relaxed person. And I feel like me and you might be similar, where it's always spinning, and it's just the chatter's always there.
It's 50-50. I either black out from running myself creatively to the point of exhaustion, or I lay awake for an additional 3 hours trying to fall asleep. It's such a weird combination of insomnia and narcolepsy.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the title of my memoir: Insomnia and Narcolepsy.
Yeah, I found that, like, exercise and physical exhaustion definitely calms it down, that kind of stuff. But if I don't get a run in, the chatter is real. Yeah,
I've noticed when you just share a picture of your Apple Watch and it's like, oh hey, I just woke up 5 minutes ago and Mike's already run 8 miles.
That's another thing too. It's like, do I post the workouts or not? Because every time I do it, I feel like I'm gloating. But sometimes you just, I don't know. That's the thing. You share the workout.
No.
I post most not of them.
You're totally gloating.
Yeah, because it is gloating.
But you're also such a likable guy that everyone's just kind of like, good for Mike.
I don't know.
Good for Mike. I mean, he's so scrawny. He obviously needs to lose the weight.
I got to lose the weight. I struggle with it. I think too much. It's like, do I post it? Do I not post it? Am I inspiring? Am I inspiring people, or am I pissing people off?
So here's the thing. Here's the thing.
The thing.
Look at you right now. I'm looking at your garb right now because, without realizing it, you have adopted. Yes, you're allowed to drink. You have adopted a fashion sense that is popular amongst my fellow lazies.
A sweater?
Well, yeah, because here's the thing. Normally a nice loose sweater will hide the chiseled abs underneath it from rigorous hours of working out. But like, it's people who wear sweaters like that, like, they can be a little huskier and nobody cares. But for you, you're hiding any sense of form underneath, whether it is larger or smaller. So you can skip the workout and you can just wear the sweater, and people will still be like, Mike,
it'll still be the same.
Mike, you look great. You look great. It's not form fitting, but you are shaped very much like a human, and the sweater makes you very, very cozy and huggable.
I like that you set that up like I might have abs under here. I might, which I definitely don't.
don't ruin my fan fiction. I've got my Michael Henthorn lore.
I
read an interview one time with Kid Rock of all people, and all quirks aside, he said something along the lines of like, it's funny because Kid Rock's going to go out until 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's got 2 ladies on each arm. He's going to take him up to his hotel room, and they're going to do unspeakable things. But you know what? Me, the human, like I'm going to be in bed about 9, and tomorrow I'm going to wake up and go hunting or fishing. Like that's the thing when you create call it an image, call it an aura, and it surrounds you. It does all the work for you. It's like at that point, once you establish the aura of Michael Henthorn and Henthorn Media, you don't have to actually try. You'll no longer have to run because people will just assume that underneath every fluffy sweater you wear, that there's not just a 6-pack or an 8-pack, but like a 12-pack.
End of the podcast. Totally a 6-pack underneath the sweater, which my 3-year-old came up to me yesterday, puts her hands on my belly, and she goes, "It's so big." Which any jogging or kettlebells I do, ego just plummeted.
Wait. Which child was this?
That was Cece.
Okay, yeah.
It's so big, Daddy. And I go, "You call me fat?" She goes, "No, it's just a big tummy."
Show Cece a picture of her in the first year of her life. She was a chunker.
Yeah, she has no room to talk. She's way fat.
She has no room to talk. Your wife birthed Jabba the Hutt in cute baby form.
That is my.
It was adorable though.
That is my insecurity. I carry weight in the love handles and in the belly. That's where it resides. I just want to look good in a t-shirt, and if I put on a good t-shirt, it's the sides. Hey man, that's where it gets me.
I'm sorry that you feel the need to please other people so much, Mike.
So much. Probably too much.
Probably too much.
I gotta work on that. I feel like I'm getting better at it, but it's like being in your 30s helps. But yeah, I think I care too much.
Your 30s are wonderful. Your 30s are where you learn what has been called. Am I allowed to cuss here? Can we censor this out?
Yeah.
The subtle art of not giving a fuck. That's also a famous book.
Mark Manson, baby.
Yeah, it's there's something to be said about becoming so comfortable in your skin that you no longer care what other people think. God, if I had this mentality when I was, a sophomore in high school,
or now,
like think of how. Oh, come on, shut up!
I'm getting better.
Of all people, I feel like you should be very proud and feel very grounded in the reality that you find yourself in, because it's one that you helped bring into existence.
It's taking shape.
It's taking shape.
Recently, I'm in transition.
We're all in transition constantly, but at some point, if you don't stop and appreciate what you've built and what you've accomplished, what is it all for? Like, what's the work for if you can't appreciate, if you can't feel good about your contributions? Because at the end of the day, aren't we all just trying to inflict just a little bit of positivity on the world?
I really wanted you on this first podcast I want to learn more about you, and I feel like it's going to be a therapy session of just helping me out. You're such a beautiful soul, man. Come on. That was beautiful.
I'm deeply flawed, but I have my moments.
You have your moments, but they're far and few in between.
So seriously, we can wax poetic on this.
We're just gonna blow smoke up each other's ass
for an hour straight. Like seriously, welcome to my podcast. It's called You're Lovely, Mike. You're lovely. No, you're lovely.
Yeah, right.
It just goes on.
Well, it is weird. It's like I first met you in April of 2013.
I thought it was 2012, but time is not real. So
13 for sure.
You met me in 2013,
and it's weird sitting down and we can just talk. We don't gotta worry about making music.
No.
Or eating hibachi.
Oh, hibachi.
Yeah, so we can just talk with these cans on and hear our voices and get nerdy.
Are you calling them cans just because you want to sound more official?
No, that actually came naturally. See, that's the thing. I started to feel confident. I said cans, and now just knock me down a peg.
I'm sorry.
Just knock me down.
Let's go back. So, Mike, I met you in 2013.
2013. So
you stumbled into my home.
So I had no idea how long you were recording since then. When did to get into the official podcasty Kevin Gates questions? Was it Did you always want to be a producer? Was it?
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, so take it away from there.
Gosh, I was a band nerd, band geek in high school. I was a band geek at the start of college. I did marching band. I did concert band. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. When I went to college, I was just following, the mantra of like, oh, you need to get a degree, which everyone, now knows is it's kind of bullshit. Like
pointless.
Like there's
so true.
There's still things to be said about a college education, and when I say that, I mean it's more along the lines of being exposed to different people and different ideas. It's a way to help figure out who you really are, but who's to say you can't do that by getting a job and working on the side while you figure out what you want to do. Anyways, educational economics aside. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. My older sister, was an anthropology major, and I'd never heard anthropology before, but I knew that archaeology was a discipline within anthropology, and I was thinking Indiana Jones. I'm like, ooh, this is interesting.
Yes.
I didn't actually think that I was going to go out and, wear a fedora and punch people, Nazis in particular. But I loved the idea of digging in the dirt and finding things and answering questions, and that was very fascinating for the first 2 years or so of my college career. And then I was like, how do I make money doing this? Is this a viable career? I said I wanted to be like Indiana Jones, but I don't actually want to teach people. What am I doing? So that was the creepy inner monologue that was going on inside me. At the time, musically, I was steering away from my band nerd days, and I was getting more into guitar, and I was playing in a couple bands. And
when did you start the guitar? And what was the band instrument? Was it? I forgot.
I played the B flat clarinet, which is an instrument that my mother and my sister both played before me. When I first took it up, I was a very appropriate size for the instrument. But to quote Little John from Robin Hood Men in Tights, in real life, I'm very big. So by the time
B flat clarinet,
the B flat clarinet, which is your standard clarinet, it's the Squidward.
I was gonna say Squidward
it's
style.
It's a Squidward instrument. It would have made more sense if I played like a bass clarinet or a contra alto clarinet, or
Did you play Missouri State?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you were in the band in college.
Yes,
and did all that stuff.
Yes,
okay.
I did. I marched the fall of my freshman year, and then I did concert band the spring of my freshman year. Then I marched the fall of my sophomore year, and then I said my goodbyes and switched over to playing music in other bands.
You didn't.
When I say other bands, I mean guitar-driven rock.
Right. You didn't start guitar then. You played guitar before
I
then?
had been dabbling in guitar since my junior year of high school because
that's that late.
Yeah.
Well, I did not. Okay, I did not know that.
I was.
That's late.
I was a very late popular music bloomer. I didn't go to my first big concert until 2017. Not 2017, when I was 17. 1997.
That was recent.
Yeah. 1999. There we go.
Who was it?
82. My first big concert. It was Everclear.
Solid.
Lit. They were touring on their Place in the Sun record with My Own Worst Enemy.
I've heard of that song.
Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
Of course.
Very fun band. And The Flies, who had one song you probably heard of. It was called "Got You Where I Want You." It was a very
maybe.
You listen to it and you're like,
I know
yeah,
that
this
one.
is the
Gotcha.
This is the 90s song.
So yeah, I did not know you picked it up late. I thought I picked up guitar late because I didn't pick it up till 8th grade, Christmas 8th grade, and I was like, oh man, it's over. I gotta catch up. You started junior year in high school.
Yeah, my first guitar was a green Squier double fat Strat, and I picked it up and I started playing Blink 182 riffs.
So that's only 2 years into the clarinet business, or at least when you started doing the marching thing.
The marching thing in college, I'd been doing band and orchestra since 7th grade.
Right, so you were really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said about sophomore year in college, that's when
I was like, okay, I think I'm. It was a couple things. One, it's really fun to create when you're in a band environment with hundreds of other people, but you're not really expressing yourself.
Right.
When you play an instrument in a band of that size, it's more about expressing the composers.
Their vision.
It's their creation. You are not an instrumentalist as much as you are an instrument at their disposal. And like that's cool because it's fun to be part of something bigger than yourself. There's a lot to like about that community, and being in band I have such great memories. But I wanted to express myself more. I wanted to have more control over the creativity. I wanted to actually sit down and write a song and then get to play it. And I couldn't do that in a 350 member marching band.
Did it kind of help going from something that big and at the macro level to I don't know how many people are in a marching band. Let's say 100.
350.
Wow, that's way more than I thought.
We marched
350.
We marched 350 in the Macy's parade my freshman year.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So 350 down to was a day away your first?
No, down to a 5-piece. I was in a band that was called Half Blind. Why were we called Half Blind? Because our singer had no eyesight in his left eye. He was half blind.
That's horrible.
That was terrible.
That's so good.
When that band when that ship had sailed, I formed another band with my buddy Justin. Shout out to Justin Madden. We were a 3-piece called Silas, but we spelled it with a Y, and it was because
you have to.
Because he heard the guy's name is Silas, and he's like, "Wow, this is a really cool name, Silas." But it was spelled Silas, and he's like, "We're gonna spell it Sylas." And we were an alt rock trio, and
the Oneaters, baby.
The Oneaters, baby. Very, very weird, eclectic alt rock, and my biggest takeaway from that is obviously, Justin, who I'm still very good friends with. But when I suggested, okay, we've got some songs written, let's record them, he was like, okay, cool, let's try this, and he bought a recorder, like a digital recording station, and some microphones, and like we self-produced. And it was completely led by him. It was 100%.
So he started it.
He started it.
Okay.
And he'd been dabbling before. Like when he was in high school, he had like a cassette recorder that would do like 4 tracks on it, and like that was where his audio production bug came from. My goal was just like, yeah, we got guitars, we got amps. So that was what.
Sorry about the kids.
Are you okay?
They'll get louder. Don't worry.
So. Yeah, my idea was let's go to a studio and find a producer, and they're going to record the songs. We're just going to play the songs.
Totally.
But Justin was like, no, we can do this. And actually, we recorded these.
Was it a save money thing or just like a artistic thing?
It wasn't a save money thing. It was an artistic thing, and it was I've been reading about this. We can do this, and I'm going to be honest. Considering that we did those recordings in a garage, like Justin nailed it.
Not bad.
He knocked it out of the park, and that actually is what kind of got me going down the road of like what is production. But Justin was very much doing it with the knobs and the faders on this all-in-one. It was a digital recording station, but like there were no screens, there was no editing or anything. So I'm over here using my educational discount with Missouri State to purchase my first DAW, like purchase my first actual like recording software, and starting to dabble with ideas.
So you're like 1920?
Yeah, 1920, and not 1920 the year,
1920 years of age.
After Silas is done and we're all moving on to different things, that was when I put together A Day Away, which was more of a pop rock / pop punk band, which was closer to where my roots lied. Like I said, I in high school I was playing Blink-182 riffs. I know it's tale as old as time at this point. So many people are influenced by that band, but like
it's cliche for a reason, though.
It's cliche for a reason, and it's a lot of fun to try to play on a guitar in your bedroom when you're 17 years old.
It's the best.
Mom, shut up! You don't understand.
It's
I'm
not
making
a
more
phase.
noise. No, I'm joking. My mother has always been very, very, very supportive of my music. My father was indifferent.
Very similar.
Very, very indifference and support are very, very similar. The only difference is my mother came to more shows.
Right.
Probably because my father was working overseas as a fisherman. But
he should have been there.
He should. No. He did the best he could to. He did the best he could to attend my concerts.
So that's where you got the bug. Was your buddy?
My buddy.
And after that, was it like a clear like I want to do this, or was it a slow progression?
It was, like I said, this is a long and boring story. It was out of necessity because I was now in a new band. I was back in a 5-piece, so my voice represents 20% of the writing core of this band. And it's very difficult to write multiple parts of a melodic composition and then bring it to your bandmates and be like, this is what I'm thinking, and then you can dissect all the individual parts. Because what you'll do is you'll go in there and you'll start playing a couple chords, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, and they start jiving in, and I'm like, look, I'm all about collaboration. That's what we're doing here, but just can you hear my idea first? That sounds so conceited, but I'm like, can you just hear like the thing in my head, and then we
tell
can
me
play
it's
off
bad
that?
first, but
Yeah.
let's at least try it.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so the easiest way to do that when I couldn't play all of the parts simultaneously was I'm going to lay out this part and then this part and then this part and this part.
So
and I was
did you try to record your songs just to get what's in your head out?
exactly
Love it.
So
Yeah.
I didn't own a bass guitar, so I'm recording bass ideas using a clean electric guitar and pitch shifting it down an octave.
Nice.
I don't have any drum software, but I have individual samples of kicks and snares. So I'm pasting kick on the downbeat of beat 1, snare on the downbeat of beat 3, kick on the downbeat of beat 1, and going back and forth. And then I'll layer 2 guitar parts over it, and then I'll take like 45 seconds of that and export it, and I'll put it on a CD, and I'll take it to band practice, and I'll be like, guys, come to my car, listen. That's what I want to do. Can we do something like that? And they would be like, yeah, I really like that, except maybe this part we can trim. Like, yeah, totally, because now we got the idea out there.
But that you did something very important where you made a not that it was not good, but like for lack of a better phrase, a crappy start, which is so key. Like, here's the start of my idea. Let's
it
branch off
completely
there.
changed what songwriting could be for me.
Yes.
Because I was able to stack idea on top of idea on top of idea on top of idea, present it, take feedback, change it, mold it. And at that point, then we could come back over to my place and sit in my bedroom and, add new things and say, oh, what if the snares did this, and what if the kick did this? And
you're writing.
That was it. And then you're writing. And so, it was about that time that we complete an entire song, like an entire demo. Like this is a song. This is a 3.5 minute song with an intro, a verse, a chorus, a bridge, an outro, the whole thing. And we would play it for other bands that were in the scene, our friends, and they would be like, wow, this is really cool. What would you record a demo for us? I'm like this? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So then I started recording demos for other bands.
And what year was this?
This probably
I
would
get
have been,
weird about years.
This would have been 2005.
So 2005, like the best producer I had where the song actually sounded good was with you in 2013, and that blew my mind. So to have someone in 2005 who could actually make a good sounding song.
No. What I was doing in 2005 was
Still.
not good. But I will say, as I bump the mic, what I will say is the best way to learn, not everything. Like, for instance, please don't take this and try to learn how to be a surgeon. Please don't learn this and try to be a lawyer, because you will hurt people. You will send innocent people to prison. Someone will die on the operating table. But the best way to learn something like audio production, for me, was hands-on.
Yeah.
Reps.
Yes.
It was doing it again and again and again. And by a year later, by 2006, I'm actually recording something that I can sit back and listen to and be like, this kind of sounds like a commercial quality record.
This is passable.
So that's when I find myself getting paid for my first full-length album.
Dang.
Which was a band called Playing with Matches, and we played a lot of shows with those guys.
That's quick. So a year later, you went from Squidward clarinet to Let's Do More Guitar to a year, basically year and a half.
We're talking about 2002 to 2005.
Like, that's fast.
Was pretty fast.
To being paid.
Yeah.
Paid. Hey man, can you cut a full length record? And it was that like imposter syndrome times 10? Or we're like, yeah, I can do it. Were you so young? We're like, I can do this. I'm a producer now. Let's go.
So here's the thing. At that point, I really didn't have imposter syndrome.
Right.
That
comes later.
Which is so weird. Which is so weird to say now, because look at me. Well, listen to me. Get inside my brain. Get inside my brain and feel what I'm feeling. I want you to understand these thoughts in my head. In 2007, I was full of myself enough that I'm like, I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to put a studio in it.
Yeah.
and I'm going to be a full-time producer.
Yes.
And that was
just young ignorance. Like,
that was,
I am the man. Let's go.
And you know what? I'm going to be completely honest. I got lucky. I had a good support system behind me. I had parents who believed in me.
Sure.
And I knew if I really failed that I would be safe. I recognized my privilege in that way, but I didn't fail. If I failed, I was failing upwards, and I kept getting bands to come in, and before you know it, late 2007, early 2008 is the first time I do a project for a label.
That's fast.
I mean,
like that's like, not to be a cliche, but like if you look at a snapshot of it, like that is you're on a steady progress upward. Mm-hmm. Like that had to be so exciting. I
don't think I really appreciated at the time, and none of us appreciate then.
That's so true.
What we do now, but I don't think I truly appreciated how many solid opportunities were coming my way and how fast they were coming my way.
Yeah.
Because as a producer, the adage is a master chef can only prepare food with the finest of ingredients and expect those results. Sure. Like I can't. No matter how good you are as a producer, you can't take somebody who just inherently doesn't have good songs and doesn't have like good vocal training and just make them sound good. I'm not saying that people shouldn't strive to be better, but like if somebody comes in and you're like, man, you're trying to sing these parts, but you have no breath control, like go with a vocal coach, learn how to breathe first, and then you can support your pitches, and then we can build songs from there. Like I didn't deal with a whole lot of that. There was so much talent around me that call me cocky, but it almost felt easy to bring out these performances and make songs that were impressing other people. And I would look at, stories I would see from other engineers and producers who were working in other cities who were doing great work, but for a lack of commercial artists in their area, they weren't getting the recognition for their work that they deserved. Because people always like to say, oh, the producer can make anybody sound good. The producer can make the artist, like Dr. Luke does it. But I'm like, that's BS, man, because it doesn't matter how good the producer is. If the artist doesn't have talent, then it's not going to be good. I mean, that goes along with all of the modern production techniques as well. Auto-tune doesn't take a bad singer and make them sound good. Auto-tune can take a good singer and make them sound great. Auto-tune doesn't make a bad song into a good song. What did T-Pain say when somebody asked him what his auto-tune settings were? He's like, well, I like to run my attack at 0.1, and I like to run my release at write better songs.
Which I just learned he's actually a great singer.
He's a phenomenal singer. He's
so good.
He sings gospel tracks.
Which, like, that's the biggest flex ever is he just used auto-tune for, like, color and just a different sound, which is cool.
It's like he created the sound, and people were like, wow, we've heard, thousands of years of aural evolution, and it's like the human voice does not normally sound like that. What's going on? This is cool.
So you progress quickly, you recorded bands, and then you got your first label
project.
How does that even start? Was there any sort of, it didn't sound like you reached out. Did the label reach out? Did the artist reach out? How did that come about?
So I had actually worked with the label on their demos that led to them getting signed. And then I did a couple more tracks when they had the backing behind them. They ended up doing the full length with another producer, Chris Crummett, who's also fantastic. The band was called Here I Come Falling. All those dudes are still great dudes. Colby Moore, the screamer from that. You know Colby?
No way.
Yeah, Colby Moore's
the
band.
guy who shot my wedding.
The guy who shot your wedding.
I didn't know he was
the guy who shot your band promo photos.
All the first Captain's Courageous photos and early Wild and Free stuff was all Colby.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful human.
Beautiful human being. Wonderful person. One of the weirdest, quirkiest senses of humor I've ever met.
It's the best.
I mean, if you're illegally trespassing on a rooftop to shoot promos for your band, no one has ever operated with a steadier hand than Colby Moore. Super
talented, and literally Sarah had to message him while we were at the Dolomites. We went to Italy because of Colby.
You went to Italy?
Because I bought his canvas print of the Dolomites, which has been in our house for like 7 years. So it's been our goal to go there. So we finally went there, went to the church, and texted Colby. It was a full circle moment.
That's beautiful.
It was cool.
That's beautiful.
So he was the screamer of that band?
He was the dirty vocalist of that band. And I got to do the tracks with them that led to their label deal, and then we got to do additional songs that ended up being.
I forgot he was in a band.
Yeah, ended up being
awesome.
demos for their label debut, which was on Rise Records.
That's legit.
I know.
So he did the thing.
So he did the thing.
Gosh darn.
He did the thing. They were, they were awesome. They were local legends back at the time.
I feel like mid to late 2000s. They had to be. It was just peak for like, I don't know, indie artists getting recognized, and like it was a different time. Like when I started, I feel like it was just a different.
Call it
time.
vibes. Call it vibes. Call it aura. Because at that point, you had bands that sounded good, and you had bands that played well live and put on a good show.
Mm-hmm.
And when you had one that did both, kind of like Here I Come Falling did for their genre, people stood up and took notice. And the problem was that kind of became oversaturated really quick because the blueprint was laid out there. Everybody started copying.
Everyone knew what to do.
Everyone knew what to do, and when everybody knows how to do, when everybody's special, nobody is. And that
to
really,
quote The Incredibles.
that really sucks, because it wasn't that these bands weren't talented and they weren't creating great music, but it's just like it didn't have the impact that it did. There was something special about 2007 to 2010 musically.
Totally.
I know a lot of old school people. I know the Gen Xers and the Gen Zers will be like, "What are you talking about?" Oh, but like
that to me was like the untouchable music. Like I was in high school from 2006 to 2010, and that's when I was peak playing guitar, trying to start my first band, trying to figure out how do I record a song. Like the way I recorded songs is I had something called, I think it was Boss. It was called a BR600. And it was like an 8-track digital recorder that I had like an SM57 to, and I could record 8 tracks. So
Mike inputs 8 tracks in like a loop station.
Yeah,
all you needed.
All that thing. And I would have all my demos, which was cool for just ideas, but had no idea how to record an EP that was worthy of showing my parents or friends or whatever. So to actually have bands like yourself, like recording it and doing the thing, it's like untouchable. I don't know, I was like 16, 17, like I couldn't figure it out. You're in your early 20s. And you're doing the real deal and dealing with labels, and became a career, and then found some real success. Like I remember when Dan Kearns and I first worked with you, and that's how our whole friendship started. We were talking about this yesterday, is I got my first college gig. I'm going to play a college show. We're going to get paid $400, which at the time was like, we made it. Like, and then right when that happened, my amp blew. And I needed an amp, and I knew Dan was in bands, never talked to him, so I hit him up. I'm like, hey, man, I need an amp to play. So he gave me his, like, really shitty Line 6. Like, he didn't give me his orange, but, like, his shittiest amp that he had, which at the time was in a pinch.
I would hope he wouldn't give you the orange.
Right. And he said he reached out to you to do music, and I don't know if communication just like died or it wasn't moving forward.
I think we had one really good exchange, and then something happened, and I got really busy, and I was a terrible person.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like
I failed to respond. It wasn't malicious, but
not at all.
I felt bad about it like for years after finding out that this was the same
It sounds worse
Dan.
the way I'm saying it. But we had a date on the books, and then that's how I like proved myself to Dan that, hey, this project is going somewhere. Like, oh, you're trying to work with Kevin? I'm actually working with Kevin in April. And he's like, oh, shit. It just went from there. So, but you were like the gold standard, and I remember going on your website, and you did like the Ready Set and Never Shout Never and Katie Groves and all those artists. It was a big deal.
There was a period of time when I was doing like the bedroom pop bands, which was funny because we're recording them with professional equipment, and we're putting a lot of time and effort into making it sound good, but we're also trying to make it sound lo-fi and weird, like.
Right.
Like it took next to no effort or budget at all.
That's where the magic came from, because like I feel like Dan and I or myself or whatever would be trying to record songs that sound like that, but then these other songs that you were doing that had that spirit of it.
My studio sounded more bedroom than your bedroom did.
Exactly. I had the analog bedroom, and you're just full on killing it. But it was just that next level. You know, like I think Dan had a poster of Katie Groves in his bedroom, and funny story about Never Shout. My first singer in my first band came over and played a song that he wrote, and it was amazing. And I'm like, what's the name of that song? He goes, it's Dare for Distance.
There for distance.
And I'm like, I love it. Let's track it. He goes, yeah, I didn't write it. I saw this guy at Six Flags called Never Shout Never. And I was like, no way. So that was my introduction to that artist who you recorded, and I don't know, we would nerd out about it. So you seemed like a celebrity.
If you would have been at those sessions like I was, it wouldn't feel that way because they were goofy.
Sure.
I didn't have imposter syndrome because I had just kind of like lucked into these gigs, and we just felt like a bunch of people in our late teens and early 20s who were just all kind of goofing off and having fun. And then when we'd listen back to it, we'd be like, yeah, that's cool. But then when people would listen to it online, they would rack up the MySpace views. They would like Chris with Never Shout. He he gets called and asked to come on MTV when MTV was a thing with actual artists and play live on MTV. Play a song that we recorded in what was the dining room of this house I was living in that had been converted into a recording studio.
No, so he just got a phone call. I feel like I've seen that video. Did he do Big City Dreams?
He did Big City Dreams.
Yes, I saw that, man.
Yeah, it happened it happened like bam, bam. Like we did the EP, and really quick after that, he got hooked up with a manager, and so then it's no longer just him and me. It's me, him, and the manager, and then the manager is also getting like fielding calls from everybody else, and it's blowing up. I always tell young artists, like, you don't need a manager until you have something to manage. If anyone had something to manage at that point, it was this 17-year-old kid who was like blowing up online when social media was in its infancy.
So it happened fast. It sounds like it happened very fast. It went from like this organic like bedroom rock thing to like MTV's calling managers. Like, I spent a decade trying to make a music career. It happened like in a month.
And then less than 2 years later, he's signing with Warner Brothers.
That's crazy.
Going from dropping his first demos online to signing with Warner Brothers, and like it was off to the races. And then after that was when the label acts really came through. That's when we started working with the Ready Sets. And then Katie Groves was an interesting occurrence. I don't know. Katie was an absolute sweetheart, R.I.P. But like, I stumbled into Katie through a fellow named Evan, who I'd worked with another band, who met her on a college campus down in Oklahoma.
No kidding.
And he was like, "Hey, I met this girl. She's really talented vocally. Like, can we get up there and do some demos? Because I've been writing and playing acoustic with her."
So he kind of discovered her.
He kind of discovered her. Like, I don't even know if it's a discovery. They just met and they started talking, and then they started playing music together. And he had recorded with me, and then he'd quit that band to go back to school because he wanted to get into nursing. But then, he meets this girl who's a really talented vocalist, and he's like, okay, I'll make music again. And it was nothing romantic. I mean, Evan's already in a relationship and everything. It's just like these two musical souls meet, and they start creating. And Katie's talent was so apparent that I did what I could to make extra time, even though this is the point when I'm doing all these label projects and stuff.
You're slammed.
I'm slammed, and I'm like, how can I? And this is also the reason I didn't have imposter syndrome at the time, because I was too busy.
That's good.
I was too busy. But we end up doing her Life of a Pirate EP. Well, I don't know why I'm thinking Cowboys. Cowboys come from Oklahoma.
My girls love that song, by the way.
Oh, dude, that whole record was so much fun. We did that before that. The demo that we did was Month of Sundays. That was we recorded 5 songs in 2 days, just like built them up from nothing. And then A Life of a Pirate was all just like, okay, I'm going to make time in the evening, and we're going to do this. I'm going to make some more time in the evening. Okay,
I work like double shifts.
I work with this band from 9:30 in the morning till about 6:30. Okay, about give me 30 minutes to eat dinner, and then at 7:00 roll in, and we can go and we can track vocals until like 10 or 11 at night, and then I'll try and get some sleep and also hang out with my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and try to have some semblance of a life.
What year was this with Katie?
This was 2010.
Okay.
So this was
gotcha.
So Never Shout was blown up. The Ready Set had signed.
So you were just pumping them out.
We're just pumping them out, and just I keep working. about this time, I start working with a manager, Brandon. Shout out to Brandon Goodman, who was one of the sweetest, most thoughtful people ever, who wanted the absolute best for me. And, Katie gets signed. Everything's going great. 2012, 2013, right before you come into the picture, I just have like a huge crisis of conscience moment where I sit back and for the first time I wonder, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life?
No kidding.
Yeah, like seriously, I don't know.
We never talked about this.
I don't know if we ever talked about this. So I was so overworked. It was all really cool, and I was getting to do things like, I got to go backstage at the Warped Tour and hang out with, because all of my friends that I recorded were on the Warped Tour.
Yes.
And
no big deal.
I was getting to do all these things that 1999, 2000 high school Kevin would have freaked out about.
Would have lost your mind.
Yeah, and I'm losing my mind here, and I'm in my late 20s, and I'm just like, it was right around the time I turned 30. Call it a pre-midlife crisis / post-quarter life crisis.
I think late 20s is hard.
Yeah, it was hard because you're kind of at that point where it's like, do I stay in this lane or do I take the exit ramp and I go someplace else and get on a different highway? And I was doing something really cool. I knew I was doing something really cool because every day I would talk to people and they're like, man, your job must be so cool. And I'm just thinking I work a lot. And the thing that really hurt at that point, because by 2011, I'm no longer playing in any bands on the side of working. Like that part of my life is over. So the thing that originally led to me recording and producing is no longer a part of my life.
So you're kind of doing the quote unquote almost side hustle of what you originally started.
Yeah,
and that's
my main gig.
But now it's your main gig.
And now I have a manager, not for my band because I'm not in a band anymore, but for my studio. And if there's an open date on my calendar and somebody wants it, I feel like it's booked. I'm working, 29 days out of the month.
The room with no windows.
The room with no windows. I tell people that if I ever come off as weird or eccentric, it's because as a producer, I spend all day, every day working in a room with no windows, except for a giant window that leads to another room with no windows.
Yes.
That is the window going between the live room and the control room, and vice versa. It's so I don't know if this is what I want to do. I enjoy creating. I enjoy making music with people. I enjoy collaborating, but I'm also realizing now that I no longer have time to write or create anything for myself. All of my creative energy is going into helping other people fulfill their musical dreams. And I wasn't at a place there where I realized how special that was. And so I don't think I appreciated it. And because of that, I start doubting. I start doubting myself whether or not I can continue at this pace physically or if I'm going to work myself into an early grave. I start wondering, how am I going to avoid the burnout? Because I'm starting to really feel it. There's all of these other interests I have in my life. I love to travel. I'm a gaming nerd. I love to play video games. I'm an avid watcher of nerdy television. And also I'm obsessed with all of the nerdy things in pop culture. You and I have bonded over Star Wars, and
it's 90% of our friendship.
And 90% of our friendship is nerdy science fiction and Amblin movies from the 80s and just like weird pop culture nonsense, but also Lord of the Rings.
Yes!
There's all of these other like fandoms and interests that I have, and I have time for absolutely zero of
None
them.
of it.
None of it.
It's like, you're overworking when it's like a friend would invite me to like a movie, and I'm like, I can't even go. Mm-hmm. Like you don't have time to even.
I
relax.
can't. I'm sorry. I've got a session the next day. I can't go to a 9:00 movie.
And yes, even when you're watching a movie at home, you're like stress laxing. Like, this is a waste, and you don't even realize how much you're overworking yourself.
It was also to the point where, because I would get so much communication from all parties, from past clients, from current clients, from clients to come. I'm responding to emails. My manager's responding to some. I'm responding to others because there's questions that they had that he couldn't answer that I could answer, and vice versa. And I'm trying to balance all that. And it was to the point where it's like I would go to turn my phone off and watch TV or just like unwind for like 30 minutes, and I would be stressed out like
Just about
what will happen if I flip this over? So
that's a blessing, but also can be a lot.
Exactly. There's a lot of people who are trying to grind, who would love that problem. And I was just at a point where I was like, man, the grass is always greener. I remember actively thinking, would I be happier if I just got a job as an assistant manager at like Best Buy? And I just got to sell tech toys to people. But then at the end of my 9 to 5, clock out and go home and get to do something else. Which is so weird to say because I'm over here literally living the dream.
Yeah, accomplishing what so many producers or artists would kill
exactly
to do.
Any creative professional, especially in a field that is so heavily focused on the technological side of it now, would love to be in that position.
Sure.
And I was over here. I had it, and I was like, is this something that I want to do? So starting in 2012 and then carrying over into 2013. So I believe there's the line from Fight Club. You came into my life at a really you met me at a really weird time in my life. That's what he says.
I never knew that. That's hilarious.
That's what you did. So
which makes sense because the first time my band met you, the old Captain's Courageous days with it was me, Dan, Tom, and Adam, our first drummer. We get out of the car, we're all nervous. We're 21. We're gonna meet Kevin. You're like 9 feet tall. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's huge.
I'm 6'3".
And you come up to each one of us. Do you remember what we said? What you said?
I can't remember what I said to each one of you, but I had a thing I had a moniker of in my thoughts behind this were, okay, so I want to appear to be intimidating right off the bat because honestly, when people get to know me, they find out pretty quick that I'm a teddy bear.
You're the nicest guy.
I'm a teddy bear. Like, I understand that I am big and I can be imposing and I am large. I get that from my father. We're both mountain men.
Yeah.
And I've got one chance to kind of have fun with this and stand over them and be like,
it's intimidating.
I just kind of stare down at them.
Not only are you intimidating just based off like a physical, tall.
What was the first thing I said to you?
So yeah, you're tall, you're 6'3", so you have a physical presence. You come up to each one of us left to right because we were like lined up for some reason. You go, hi, I'm Kevin. I hate you. I hate you. Nice to meet you. I hate you. And I hate you. You said you hate each and one, but it was, of course, playful. It was funny. It was a good icebreaker. But that was the first handshake. I hate each and every one of you. And, of course, the weekend happened. Wait.
And there was the eye contact, too.
The intense eye contact. And then, of course, that weekend ended with the classic Kevin barrel hug and lifting. It was great.
No, but the thing I remember I said this to you is I said, the best part about my job, I said this to you while you were leaving, is people will come down here, they'll give me a giant wad of cash. I will belittle them, berate them. I will call into question every decision that they have ever made in their life that leads up to this moment. And at the end of the day, they still hand me a wad of cash and say they can't wait to come back.
Can't wait. That's so true.
It's I mean, like that was the joy of that. But the thing is, so I'm not trying to get mushy or sappy or anything, but
let's get sappy.
Let's get
another cocktail and get weird.
Bands like your band are what kind of saved my production career.
Stop.
No, I'm serious.
That's not true.
No, I'm serious. I'm serious, and don't take all the credit.
That's way too flattering.
Because it's not just Captains by itself. I love you guys. You were all invited to my wedding.
You're good, man. You're good.
Obviously, I've made some amazing friends doing what I do, but it was right around that time that I kind of found a new purpose in what I was doing. In that I didn't just want to work on the label projects. I didn't just want to do the money gigs. At that point, after all of the time, like going back to, when I was an anthropology major and I was like, I can't do this because I don't want to be a teacher. I found myself wanting to mentor and share knowledge and try to help independent bands get a foothold. And I'm sure you remember this, but we had that first session. We did a song in 2 days. We did It's Worth It, right?
That's it.
Yeah. And at this point in my career, I've produced over 3,900 songs. I added it up.
Holy
again.
Moses!
Over 3,900 songs
before It's Worth It.
Yeah. No, not before It's Worth It. No, at this point right now, 3,900 songs. At that point, it was probably about half. I told you I was working a lot, man.
Crazy.
I was working a lot. We were cranking them out. Not every single one was like a crazy, like, full top-notch production, but like literally thousands of songs. And at this point I'm like, okay, we can knock this song out, because what you guys were doing was a fairly straightforward pop rock song.
100% at best.
but you listen to it and you're like, this is catchy, this is good. And I remember I said something to you that I said to some people, like, there's somebody out there right now that they don't know it yet, but we are creating what's going to be their favorite song.
Oh, that's so touching.
Like, and I said that to you.
Yeah.
And like, it's true for every talented artist that comes in, and like you're putting together what is a good song. It might not blow up, it might not top the charts, but like, there's somebody out there, if you distribute this and you put it into the hands and ears of consumers, somebody is going to hear this and this will be their favorite song.
Which still doesn't land to me. That doesn't seem like it's plausible, but firsthand from whatever was the Never Shout stuff or the Ready Set stuff, whatever it was. To me, those records seem probably much bigger to me than do to you, because like you said, like you were there for the process, and like I remember doing Dare for Distance or whatever it was, and you remember that day, maybe that was 2 or 3 days or a day or an afternoon, it was no big deal, and then you saw the impact some of those songs had, and you're like, oh my gosh, like the Katie Grove stuff, I did that after eating a bowl of spaghetti, and then 40 minutes later we knocked that out in a night, and now it's a legit thing.
I'm gonna throw another name out for you, because apparently the whole purpose of this is we're just gonna name drop everybody.
Yes.
Casey Smith, formerly Romance on a Rocket Ship, who also worked with Captains for a little while.
A little bit.
Like great dude.
Super nice dude.
The thing about Casey was the first time I worked with him as a solo artist, and he came to me, and Casey was somebody who I'd first met when he was the guitarist in Here I Come Falling.
Oh.
That was how I met Casey. So Casey comes to me with this Romance on a Rocket Ship idea. It didn't even have that name yet. And he brought in a bunch of lyrics, and we had no beats, no real chord progression or anything. Like, we had lyrical ideas and like the very outlier of a melody. And over the course of 2 days, we created this beat and then created these melodies. And so for some of the melodies, Casey had never sung before, because he wasn't a singer in Here I Come Falling. So he's kind of learning his voice and learning how to sing, and we're trying to figure out how he wants to handle it. And so we settle on the auto-tune effect, partially because it sounds cool like T-Pain, but also partially because it can mask some deficiencies. It also gave us the freedom and flexibility to change melodies on the fly. He would go in and hit a passage, and then we could be like, okay, let's change it. What if this note went here and this note went there? And so we're building these songs. And at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, that was a lot of fun. Like we created something. Like we did some really good work. We went from like these words on a typed out piece of paper to like, hey, a song that we can listen to in our cars. Cool. But in my brain, I'm thinking, this isn't going to go anywhere. Like this is for funsies. And then Romance on a Rocket Ship signs to Universal.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's the point I was trying to make. It's like you've experienced firsthand multiple times with multiple artists. Like, no, understand what we're doing today can have real impact.
Mm-hmm. So
that's so cool.
there's a lot of interviews that I've seen with successful musicians, successful producers, where they're like, "Did you have any idea this was going to be as big as it was?" And they're like, "No, we really didn't." And you're like, "Come on, of course you did." No, we really don't, because we're in there all day, every day, making music, and we're striving to make everything as good as it possibly can be. And what it comes down to is, the marketing, how effectively and efficiently you can put this music into the hands and ears of consumers, but also like, what is the psyche of consumers in the world at that time? What do they want to hear? Think about a song like Little Lion Man by Mumford & Sons.
Right.
Because that's a song that if you would have listened to and if you would have heard the demo for that in like 2007, 2008, you're like, yeah, this is a catchy little folky song. Like, it's very niche. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. But like, before that song drops on the radio, you have Kesha, you have Katy Perry,
right?
You have Four on the Floor, club thumping, Lady Gaga, Tayo Cruz, all of that stuff, and then out of nowhere comes this weird like it's an Americana pub song by British dudes.
It was like perfect timing with like hipster coffee shop kind of time, where it's like all like that was like My Friend era, Picasso's coffee shop, whatever. They were like the stars of that. I don't know if it's a movement or whatever to call it. But it was an opening.
There was an opening for that.
Yeah.
And that's what led to the success. But also like songs like Gautier. Gautier. Somebody that I used to know. That's a song that's so weird and quirky. But it drops at just the right moment and it blows up. Look at Fireflies by Owl City. Owl City had been doing stuff on social media and MySpace for so long. He gets a label behind him and they actually put out one of these songs with like a legit budget behind it, and everybody falls in love with the sound that all of the MySpace kids have been listening to at that point now for 2 or 3 years.
So let me ask you this. So you said you recorded close to 4,000 songs. Mm-hmm. So in the spirit of what we were just talking about, out of those 4,000 songs, can you think of one song that in the moment when you were recording it didn't feel special, it was just another day in the office, that blew up or reached levels that shocked you?
Hands down, Trouble.
Okay.
One of my gold records.
That's right. Okay.
Trouble by Never Shout Never. And to be completely honest, that song wasn't even on our radar for the ukulele stuff that we were doing.
Was that the first EP or was that second?
That's the second. The first EP was the Yippie EP. So the Yippie EP was Here Goes Nothing, Big City Dreams, Dare for Distance.
So you guys had momentum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that was when he had approached me with the idea of doing like this electronica / acoustic thing. So we really steered into that with the drum samples and the fun little Reason synthesizers and stuff. The ukulele EP was going to be much more stripped down. But Trouble wasn't even on the radar. There were other songs that he had played for me that we discussed what we liked about it and what we didn't like about it, and what we were going to do. We were trying to decide whether we were going to do 4 songs or 3 songs or what was going to go on this. And one day, he lived in Joplin. I lived in Springfield. So there's about an hour drive. So he's driving up from Joplin, and in his own words, he said while he was driving and his car was on cruise control, he pulled the ukulele out of the back seat and started very simply strumming while he's driving. So he's kind of driving. The way he's describing this to me is he's driving with his knees on the steering wheel, and he's playing, and he's writing. And so,
as one does.
As one does. That's the story he's telling me right when he gets to my home / studio. He's like, we're going to do this song. I just wrote this morning. I think this is really good.
Driving over.
Yeah. And he plays it, and I'm like,
amazing.
He plays it, and I'm like, yeah, that's really catchy. That's
fine.
fun. I don't think it's as good as the song we did yesterday. I don't think it's as good as the song that we're planning to do tomorrow. But yeah, let's do this one.
Let's do it.
And because it wasn't on the radar, we had no idea like how we were going to go about it. So when we decided, okay, so we're going to put stomps and claps in there. Okay, well, we need to record some stomps. Let's put a microphone on the floor. Okay, let's go out there and let's jump up and down on the floor. You know? And so I got my roommate to come downstairs because I had my roommate / bandmate at the time, Bradley, came down and we just like put the mic there and we went 1, 2, 3, jumped and stomped. And we got a couple of those, and those were our stomps. And then we set up the microphone and we did some single claps, and I just built samples out of those, and that was the whole song. And then we're like, let's add a glockenspiel here. And I played a little glockenspiel on the keyboard, and like, it was fun, and the vocals were fun and catchy. But like, I was like, this is a Never Shout Never song. Like, this is
one day.
Yeah, one day.
And then that obviously did what it did,
and it went
crazy.
Gold. And now I have a little plaque that hangs on my wall to remind me of it.
That's cliche, like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Wrote it like physically, like I would write lyrics and melodies.
We might have done 1 or 2 overdubs the next day to change a line.
Sure.
I think, or added like some shaker or something on that last chorus. I can't remember, but like, it went from not existing in either of our minds that morning to being like a song.
That's
like
crazy.
An actual song that
fact that he played. Luckily, it was a ukulele, not a full blown acoustic.
Try do that with a full size guitar.
Right, because I would write like lyrics or melodies like from listening to like a song, just singing, but to actually be playing "Driving with Your Knees." And not only do that, which is hard enough, but then write a hit song. Mm-hmm. And then you did it like, okay, why not? And it becomes what it does.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
And that is, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, that is still the top selling song of his career.
No kidding.
I'm pretty sure.
So we should write more songs driving. Is what we're
maybe it's maybe it's something to do with the art of putting that many human lives in danger. while
Yeah,
playing
it's
an
real.
instrument while operating a motor vehicle. I don't know.
It's weird. Like, inspiration's weird, I guess. Not to get all deep, but, like, I guess something struck him in that day where, hey, he had an idea and kept driving. You must have been really strict about your start time.
No, I really wasn't. In fact, I think he was late that day too. But like it was always laid back working with Chris. The bulk of our work all happened between ages 17 and 19 for him, and then after he signed his deal with Warner, he was working with guys like Butch Walker and Butch Vig.
Butch
Vig.
That's crazy.
That Harmony record was done by Butch Vig, and when I listened to it, I'm like, this is so great. This is such a nice evolution of the stuff that he started with to what he's doing now. I appreciated that so much, and when that record didn't top the sales of what we did on the ukulele, I was really confused.
That's no disrespect to you, but that is odd. It's very
You're
odd. Great, but that's Butch Vig.
That's Butch.
He did that
Vig.
Indie record called Nevermind that did very well.
Yeah. Well, Butch Vig was also kind of the dream, because think about it. Butch Vig is a guy who produces, multi-platinum records.
The Fighters of Foo.
The Fighters of Foo, Nirvana, Nevermind. And then out of nowhere, he's like, I want to start my own band. And he forms Garbage and sells 20 million records and tours the world.
You beat me to it. I'm
like,
like, that band's garbage.
And he's also, if you ever watch an interview with him, he just has such fascinating thoughts on the creative process. Like,
he's one of my favorite people just to hear talk. It's like calming.
His voice is ASMR. Like
very ASMR.
The opposite of both of us.
I don't know if it's true, but when he said he was recording like Kurt's vocals, he would lie and say like he messed up a take or whatever, just so we can get doubles of the vocal takes or whatever. Because I don't know, Kurt wouldn't want to do it, but
because he wanted everything to be raw.
Right. The old Sound City, whatever, grunge times. But yeah, the fact that he went from ukulele driving a car to Butch Vig is crazy. But still, as big and as amazing as Butch Vig is, that song is still top, which is wild.
What's funny to me, the funniest part is that Trouble and Never Shot Never in general has kind of become meme-worthy. And I don't know how big the meme actually is, because I don't know how much of it is just my friends and contemporaries sending me these things.
Yeah.
It's just I see these pop up online, and they're usually references to like what it was like to be alive in 2011, 2010, and like what a vibe it was. And it's all like me on the outside. It's like guy with his hood up and listening. What I'm listening to in my headphones. I
know exactly what you're talking about.
All of those memes, or like you have just like it's all pretty much the same thing.
Right.
It's the same thing, is that somewhere deep inside there's this whole generation of people that appreciate that song. And it's also funny to think, because I try to wrap my head around it. And like, it's one thing to say a record went gold, and we can sit back and say, oh, gold is when a record sells 500,000 copies. But there was an outlier on that plaque when I first got it that really made me think, and still makes me think to this day. It kind of makes me question everything in music, because it says equivalent sales or streams, which the laws pertaining to streams constantly change. But at one point, it took 100 streams to equal a sale.
Interesting.
So, like, when you look at that, it might be the equivalent of 500,000 sales, but what was the reach of that song?
Right, probably bigger, probably much bigger.
Am I tooting my own horn to say that? I don't.
You are, but you're right.
Like,
you're not wrong.
It's one of those things where I look at it and I'm like, and I think this might be more where the imposter syndrome comes from, because like how many people heard that, and like I've just said the song. We didn't think it was going to be big.
Like not to interrupt you, but like Sarah, like, at high school you have like Burn CDs or whatever. Like that was on a random Burn CD. I found it randomly like a few years ago. It's like, oh, I remember this one from high school, and it's like Cartel or Blink-182, and then Trouble comes on. I'm like, that's Kevin's song. Like, no way. So it reached like a pocket in O'Fallon, Missouri, like way before I ever met you.
I have friends now who we didn't meet until later in their life, who at that time had that song on a mix CD, and I'm just like, that's
exactly it.
It's so weird.
That's it.
Because they're like, I can't believe you did that. I'm like, I kind of can't believe I did that either.
Right.
Like,
you don't realize it when you're making it.
but again, like, did I produce that song? Yes. When you look at the textbook definition of what it means to produce a song and the contributions that were made to the song, and like the instrumentation and the arrangement, yes, it's a production song. Like I pulled my weight and I did what I was hired to do. But again, that song would not have been anywhere near successful if it wasn't, someone like Chris, someone who had that specific level of vocal talent and that ability to lyrically connect with people. At least at the time, like there was a consumer need at that time. People wanted to hear something that captured that vibe and that emotion and what it meant to be a kid in love. Like it was still emo, but it was post emo bubblegum because like it was okay at that point for the first time in kind of our modern society for guys to have those feelings for, I love her so much, I'm in trouble, I'm addicted to her.
It was very
she's so rock and roll and out of my league, and it was like
flip phone love.
That level of emotional vulnerability was cool, and if without him, none of that happens. Like, it's still his song. I was fortunate enough that I was there, and I was tasked to capture it so that song could be replicated every time somebody hit play.
I love that. And you once told me, like, writing like a hit song, in your experience, is like you have to have your sound, but you need to predict where like the music industry sound is going, and like almost write it before it gets there, so it's fresh. So it still needs to be you, but you got to kind of almost predict and try to be like one step ahead.
Being a truly great songwriter, a professional songwriter, you have to be able to craft something that is uniquely your own, speaks to the masses, and is not copying tired trends. It needs to aim ahead of the curve. If there's a sonic quality you're trying to hit, it needs to be ahead of where people are now. And I'm not saying you should write a song to try to write a hit song, because I don't think you're gonna find a lot of success in that. If you're just trying to write a song that's just a hit, you're gonna end up writing something that's plastic, because a hit song in your brain is probably what a hit song was in the past, not what a hit song is in the present, or a hit song will be tomorrow.
That's to make it completely about myself. I feel like if anything that I did wrong is that. Like, I loved like early mid 2000s like pop rock, and I desperately just wanted to be that. Instead of being like, what's next? What's new? I'd always be like, what do I like? I always made the records that I want to listen to.
It's not just what's next and what's new, but it's also what's going to be authentic, because people can spot a fake a mile away.
Right. So I was right in that sense. I would try to write music I loved, but I was always still not thinking. I don't think I was thinking ahead.
You were also. How do I put this delicately? Because I appreciate this about you. You're a very nostalgic person.
Hell yeah. I just watched The Goonies last week.
You don't want to tear down music establishment when you write a song.
Yeah.
You want to recreate the way music made you feel.
That's 1,000% accurate. That is dead on.
And the thing is, before someone like a Billie Eilish, how many records were there out there that made you feel the way a Billie Eilish single does? Like, on some level, you have to be authentically yourself and create something that people haven't heard before. But also, you don't want it to be so weird that people aren't going to connect to it, because unless you're the kid who's sitting there on the edge of his bed or her bed and just playing an acoustic guitar, writing purely for themselves, and it's never going to go anywhere else, you're writing music for an audience. So if you want to be a musician, a commercial musician, you have to write with your audience in mind. You're a storyteller. You're putting something out there, and you want them to be able to interpret it and experience it without getting confused or lost. Unless, that's what you want them to experience.
Unless that's your goal. To backpedal a little bit, I don't know if you still believe this or if you're joking. The old ukulele never shout stuff. Maybe it was like 10 years ago we were talking about it. You said that you were fairly convinced that at the time, I want to know if this still holds, that's why Hey Soul Sister Train had a ukulele in it, which was around 2009, 2010, I think.
Okay.
So it's possible.
Okay, let's talk about this, because my wife Penny, I give them full credit for the reason that when you walk into any music store today, you can find a display of ukuleles. So, before I went to college, I lived in Hawaii. I spent 10 years of my life in Hawaii.
Deep, baby.
It's weird. It's weird. That was where I first played the clarinet. That was where I got my first
That's
guitar.
where it all
Was
started.
in Hawaii, not what people think. I'm not Hawaiian, but I lived in Hawaii. Beautiful place. Love it. Want to go back and visit. Don't know if I'd ever live there again. I've kind of become more cold-natured as I grow older. But anyway.
I digress.
So,
Hey, did you write that Train song? I grew up in Hawaii.
So, in Hawaii, in music class in elementary school, they would bring in ukuleles. Think about it. It makes perfect sense. It's an easy instrument that, tiny hands can play. And they would teach us how to play our C chord and then how to play our G chord and play our A chord, and play our, like a D chord. Like it was
Simple,
very, very
and it
simple.
doesn't hurt the fingers as much.
No, it doesn't.
Nice nylon.
Very, very easy. Most of these songs could be taught, and they had, like 3 to 5 chords. Then you can play a whole song, and everyone could, and you do a very simple strumming pattern. Anyway, so ukulele was kind of big out there. I mean, not just because it's a Hawaiian thing, but it's also so portable. So in high school, there would be guys and girls in the hallways that would bring a ukulele in their backpack. The headstock would be sticking out of their JanSport. And like on lunch period, they would pull out the ukuleles and sit around and have jam sessions. And I just always had a soft spot for the ukulele, and I couldn't play it super well, but I could play it, especially once I started playing guitar and there were the similarities and stuff. I would fool around on it. But I told my now wife, then girlfriend, that this was what it was like, and as a nice little nostalgia gift, Penny got me a soprano ukulele. Just a cheapy little guy, but like, and so it was nice to have, and I had that in the studio. And so while we're working on the Never Shout Never Yippee EP, Chris at one point picks up the ukulele and I show him a couple chords and he starts dabbling around in it. Right about that time, there was an artist, Forrest Klein, Hello Goodbye, who had started dabbling in the ukulele. And Chris saw that and I was like, that's really cool. Like, and because of that, he got inspired and he wrote these ukulele songs. And then we produced these ukulele songs. And now let's look at the band Train. What year did Hey Soul Sister come out?
I'm going to say 2009.
We're going to look this up.
I feel like that was junior or senior year of high school for me. I think that was 09. Either 09 or 10, but I'm going to go 09.
My phone is trying to update now.
We'll be back. Gosh, is it 10? I think it's 09. Don't second guess yourself.
So, Hey...
I think 09.
Soul Sister. Hey Soul Sister... coming out in 2009.
Hey, 2009. Let's go.
We are recording the ukulele EP in December of 2008 to January of 2008.
Okay.
Right? And then dropping it the following spring. Train had kind of fallen off for a little bit after that Calling All Angels song.
Which I love that song.
I love that song too. And Train was an absolutely incredible band. From the way they reinvented themselves from like Meet Virginia into like the Drops of Jupiter.
And
like
Calling All Angels.
What a cool band. Great live show too. Pat Monahan's amazing. But Pat Monahan, I read an interview with him where he talked about how the band was kind of in limbo trying to figure out what their sound was going to be and looking for inspiration and trying to reconnect with what music listeners were into and going through everything, including social media.
Keeping the audience in mind.
Yeah. going through social media and getting exposed to
what's hot.
So they're getting exposed to what's hot. And then in late 2009, Hey Soul Sister, a ukulele-driven pop single comes out and goes to the top of the charts.
Like, you can neither confirm nor deny, but
no.
I think it's reasonable to
all I know is
to raise an eyebrow at.
I'm gonna say you had Never Shout Never, and then you had like Hello Goodbye, like Forrest Klein, like
great band.
And then you had Steven Jerzak did a really good ukulele EP. One of my good friends, Steven Jerzak. Like all of these artists on MySpace started coming out with ukulele tracks, and it became kind of a movement. Like it was like a new subgenre, and
so like let's say it's it's almost that whole MySpace, like you said, subgenre as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And you can argue at the time, Never Shout was maybe the forefront of that kind of genre.
not necessarily the first, but kind of like starting to ride that wave.
Right. Fair.
Like arguably one of the bigger songs to come out of that movement.
Sure.
Like the online bedroom pop ukulele movement. And then, Hey Soul Sister comes out, and it's like, this is a ukulele song. Ukuleles are everywhere now. And now all of a sudden you go in Guitar Center, and one of the first things you see is this display with all of these Kala ukuleles. Because everyone wants the perfect little gift for Christmas for perfect little kid.
So we can say today confidently, Hey Soul Sister was 1,000% inspired by Hawaii. That's the journey.
I like to credit my wife. I like to say it was inspired by Penny. I like to say
Penny did it.
Penny's decision to buy me a ukulele is what
That's
inspired this.
That's a better way to say it. Penny started Hey Soul Sister, which honestly, you could look at it is entirely possible.
I don't want to say it's entirely possible. I want to say it's plausible.
It's a fact.
No, I'm not going to go that far. This
plausible.
is a working theory that I've had working for about a decade.
No, it's funny because you said it, like I said, a while back, but I'm like, I think it actually holds weight. It's not just fun to say.
It's not just an empty argument. I'm too logical of a person to just throw something out haphazardly. There's got to be a little bit of research.
Yes, I love it. So now you're a big time, huge successful producer, man. Been doing it for 15 years. Says the journey.
17.
17 years.
17 years.
Dang.
Because 18 if you count it to my first. I'm counting it just to the time when I had my first like actual studio. That was like this is a studio. This is mine. I own the building.
And that was your first one, right? Your house, your current house,
yeah.
And that studio.
The one I still live at. Everyone always asks me like, why don't you move? And I'm like, I like it. It's cozy. It's when people come over, it's not like, oh, we're going into a big scary recording studio. Sure, there's rack gear and there's a wall of guitars and stuff, but it's like you're going over to Kevin's house. We're gonna hang out.
That's a good point.
We're gonna party. Well,
we're gonna party.
No, we're not gonna party. We're not gonna drink at all. We're gonna sit there and we're gonna nerd out. I bring out the nerdiness in my clients. Like if I work with a metal band and they come in and they're looking all aggressive on day one, wearing their leather and everything, by day two they're wearing gym shorts and they're talking about D&D.
You break them down. Do you see a big difference between like day one band dudes and then day two band dudes, just in the way they dress and act?
Yes, especially in the first session. Now, like when I've been working with bands for a long time, it's always nice to see them come in like comfortable for day one. I like to say I'm not in it just to make songs. I'm also in it to make relationships.
Totally.
Because I love when I can partner with a band and do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 40 songs, however many they are with an artist. And we can create music and capture like their ideas, but then also grow together. Like sonically, our approach to the songs can grow together and be inspired by everything that's happening to everybody in the band and myself internally, everything that's inspiring them externally, other factors, other genres, other happenings in the world.
I love that.
It's really cool. I mean, like, look at Captains. Like you said, we met in 2012. How many songs have we done together, Mike, between your two bands?
Easily over 30.
A lot.
Yeah, maybe 40.
and I know it's a weird friendship where you keep coming down and giving me money, and then I keep yelling at you to do something again because it's not good enough. But at the same time,
used to be. You still can be scary, but those first couple sessions were borderline terrifying. I remember specifically. This was either the first. I think it was the second time we were recording, and I was 21, getting used to, I would say, professional click, studio recording. And we did a take, and I thought I did pretty good. And you look at me and you go, how do you think that take went? And I was like, it was good. And then you stood up from your chair and you go, the click track wasn't even fucking on, Mike. It was, no one's listening to the click track. You're not listening. You're not listening. you pulled a fast one where you purposely turned the click track off, made me do a take, and I just ate shit. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
So,
which was great because after that though, I was locked in.
So I will.
I got locked into that click track.
I will say this again. The intimidation factor is there. Okay, I often tell my clients I'm an asshole, but I'm not a dick.
It was very purposeful. Like I learned my lesson.
and here's one of the things. And honestly, that weird mentality and that approach, which was never on the level of like a J.K. Simmons and Whiplash.
It was never
about that. No,
Yeah.
there's no malice behind it. And in fact, it was at that point because I had seen the label projects and I had seen that side of the industry, and like at that point I wanted to help younger bands kind of like
Totally.
establish themselves and find their footing and helping getting their music out there. And I was familiar with the details that would make the powers that be immediately turn off a young band. Like, what were they listening to? Because a label or you know a record label is basically an investment firm. They're looking for a smart investment, and there's certain things that will immediately turn them off and pull them away from wanting to invest in a young artist. And I've always found that the devil is in the details, and one of those things is like something very simple, like straight eighth guitar strumming. You know, like that's something that you have to get comfortable with, and it's going to make you tighter live. It's going to make you tighter in the studio. But a lot of people never sit down and just practice going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. No, but
Probably the hardest thing to track.
it is
so
because
simple.
it's so exposed, and
Yeah.
and anybody out there who listens to it can tell if it's off.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
might not be like, oh, this guitar's out of time, but they'll be like, something feels weird.
Why do I
here.
feel strange?
Yeah, like why is it like or the song's not hitting the way it's supposed to. So if I could do something to instill a level of fear inside my
Yes.
clients to where they would focus on these details, I felt like I was doing something good. But again, it was never from a place of malice.
No,
And-
I mean,
and-
even when you did it, we're all laughing.
Yeah,
It's like you're screaming, you're standing up, but we're all like, ah!
it's all incredibly animated, and veins are bolting out of my head.
A blast, like you made it so fun.
It's the equivalent of like a Larry David rant.
That's a good way to put it. It's like if anyone's working with you and they're new to you, I'd be like, Kevin's gonna scare you. Kevin loves you. Like you're gonna have a good time. And I've said this before, but like recording, like especially like all throughout my 20s, like that studio, I think about it. Even like I got the records framed over there. It's like that made my 20s. Like whenever you have those like sad thoughts, like did I do anything? Did I try anything? I'm like, oh, going to Springfield, Missouri, and making those records genuinely, not just to blow smoke, but like were staple moments, and I'm so proud of those records, and like we had so much fun making them, like they were the best.
Do you know what I love about that? Like you and I are friends.
Totally.
Like you and I have become very good friends. You have jumped to the top of a very short list out of all of the people I've worked
Likewise,
with. That,
man.
Like we're still buds and everything, but like I can get past like the self-doubts, which I keep referencing the imposter syndrome, but I haven't actually talked about what that's like. It's when I talk about imposter syndrome, it's not over whether or not I am capable of or have simply repeatedly failed upward at creating music that people like. The thing I have the most doubts about as a producer is whether or not I am delivering upon the promise that working with me represents for my clients.
100%.
Whether or not I'm actively like I try not to blow smoke up anybody's ass. I try not to be like, come work with me, we're gonna make you famous. I don't like, that's not true. But if somebody's gonna come in and work with me, I want them to leave with a better product than what they've gotten before. I want them to leave better prepared to push that product out to the world. I want them to understand more what they're getting into. And for some bands, that's also like pushing buttons and trying to push people to the extreme. A huge part of my job is psychological, like sitting there and reading the room and trying to decide, okay, this person right here, what are they tell me this is what they're trying to get out of being in a band, but like their mannerisms are suggesting that this isn't really what they want to do. So sometimes I would push those people a little more because my goal would be to make them make a decision where they were either going to put both feet in or take both feet out.
Right.
The whole like riding the fence or straddling
It's
the
like
line.
you know what the right decision is, but you want them to come up with the answer. And you won't actually verbalize it, but you will subtly, gently nudge them in the right direction. And I think that's what makes a good producer. It's like it's like you need to be an expert at reading people
But it's beyond just the production side of things
Totally.
because I was finding the most joy in it as a mentor, where sometimes bands would come in with 5 members, and the next time they came back and worked with me, only 3 of the same guys would be there. Only 3 of the same people would be there, and like there's part of me that's like, well, that sucks. But honestly, like it's one thing to dream about doing that, but it's another thing to understand what it takes to make that dream come true. And if you don't have it, or if it's not actually what you want because you haven't thought about the logistics of it all, then you're only doing a disservice to the other people who are in it to win it and understand what they're getting into.
Being all in.
It's being all in, but like there was a time in my life where even when I was producing, I was still playing in bands, and I would take time off from producing to go play tours and whatnot. There was a time where I'm going to make it in a band or I'm going to die in a gutter. But I've told you the story. There was one particular night we played a show in South Bend, Indiana, and we parked our van and trailer in a Walmart parking lot. Excuse me. And I remember sitting there like curled up between the 2 front seats of the van, and I had my backpack between the seats to kind of like bridge the gap between shotgun and driver. And I'm laying there, and I kind of got I'm tall as fuck. So I've got my feet kicked up on the dash and my head down by the steering wheel. I'm kind of curled up there, and I'm looking up at this light up in the sky, and it had started to snow, and the sky's completely black except for this one street light in the parking lot, and you can just see the snow kind of falling behind it. It's very picturesque.
Beautiful.
And I'm sitting there like, I really want to be at home in my own bed with my girlfriend, now my wife, and my cat, who just passed away 2 years ago. Like this is not what I want anymore. And
good on you to recognize that and not push past it.
Yeah,
you know?
I recognized it, and I tried to do what I could to accelerate my way out of it, because I didn't want to do a disservice to anybody else around me. Like I didn't handle my exit as well as I probably could have, but the intention was there to move beyond it and not be a disservice to the other people who wanted to continue trying to make music.
And then you're in this position too where you're still in it in your own way and sharing your knowledge with younger artists, and you're in this producer role, which is huge. You know, like doing something you love. Like you never really had the whole 9-to-5 experience. Like you saved yourself from that. You never had an office job that you just grind it out.
That's very true. I worked student employment when I was in college. I worked in a computer lab, you know, basically sitting there making sure people didn't break the computers, or if something wouldn't print, I could unjam the printer or change a toner cartridge. But yeah, I never really worked a 9-to-5.
That's huge.
That's weird. It's weird to think about.
Doing something you love. In the spirit of that, something I'd like to selfishly almost get from doing this podcast. I hope I can do it maybe like once a month is the current goal. In the spirit of talking to other creatives, doing it full time or striving to do it full time. I've recently gone full time in video, and you've been doing, you said, full time producer mode for 17 years. Any advice, whether it's productivity, work-life balance, just staying sane?
Oh God.
It's a broad question, but if you can kind of just harp on. It kind of just lands on being an entrepreneur or being self-employed.
So there is so much that I doubt about how I have personally handled running my own business. I mean, for instance, like I'm a heavier guy now. At one point I'd put on 100 pounds from where I was before I started producing. And was it because I worked too much? Was it because just a lack of being able to get out of the chair, working that sedentary lifestyle? And there were times when I was overworked and burnt out and incredibly depressed. Not incredibly, moderately depressed.
It's on the scale.
On the scale, it was like things were bleak, but they weren't hopeless. But it was to the point where I considered whether a change of career was what would be right for me. And there's still days where I'm just like, man, do I want to do this? And then I'll turn around and I'll have another good day. I think the 2 biggest things I can say is you really have to learn to roll with the punches, because there are going to be good days, there are going to be bad days. There are going to be days where the imposter syndrome hits and you don't feel like you deserve what you've got. You don't feel like what you're doing is good for yourself. your family, the people who depend on you, or your clients who are paying you to help execute this vision for them. Like you've got to learn to roll with it, because there's going to be bad days, and like you have to know that for every day where you're like, man, should I be doing this? You're going to come back and like 2 days later be like, damn, I'm really good at my job. Like that's it's really nice to have those moments. But probably the biggest one, and the one that I don't know if I've ever actually said out loud, but I've thought it a lot.
Oh, do tell.
It is so important to not let your job completely encapsulate you. And what I mean by that is, like I'm an audio guy. My screen name online, my handle on all of these social media is Kevin Audio, because my company was Engaged Audio, and now it's Reach Audio when I rebranded. Audio. And it's great that I love what I do, and it's great that I'm passionate about all the facets of it, and it's great that I throw myself in on a nerdy level and I get into the technical side of things and I try to understand the tools and the technology that are used in my field. Like, that's wonderful. I like to play video games. I like to watch movies. I like to really nerd out. Like, I go on YouTube and I watch breakdown videos about like old Steven Spielberg movies where they break down the different details of it. Why? Because it's so far removed from what I do on a daily basis. Like, it's important to make sure that your job doesn't consume every aspect of who you are, and that you have other things outside of you that are part of who you are. Everybody else in the world can look at me and say, you're Kevin W. Gates, the producer. That's fine. To me, I'm Kevin W. Gates, the cat dad, the husband, the nerd, the gamer, like the random history buff. I know way too much about the Civil War for some reason. Like, seriously, I swear my wife and I have a subscription to PBS Passport just so we can watch Ken Burns documentaries, and the Civil War is right up there.
Yes.
We're taking a nerdy Civil War road trip next year. I love to travel. Like, these are all aspects of who I am that have nothing to do with me waking up every day and walking down to my studio, welcoming an artist into my home, and then punching buttons to make them sound better.
I love that.
But you got to make sure, and you're already doing a great job of it. Like, surrounded by the posters, and like you've got the elements in here of like what the band life was when you were doing band thing. But like, You're Mike, the videography guy now. You are Henthorn Media.
Hey.
You're the guy that's there with a camera to capture people on their wedding day, or you're there at the concert, like down in the front in the media pit, like capturing the sweat flying off of the hands of like some of the best musicians in the world that are captivating audiences of thousands. But that's not the whole picture.
Right.
That's one chapter in the book of Michael Henthorn, and you need to make sure that you remember that.
That was beautiful.
Like,
come on,
because I know you.
That was great.
I know you. We're like we nerd out about movies. Your wife is a lovely person, and you are a fantastic husband and father.
Yeah,
and
that's up for debate. I love that you said that. That's again what I selfishly want to get out of doing more of these episodes is, let me talk to badass creatives, and what can I learn from them? What can I soak out of them? And what you said was so true, because it's like I will judge my happiness and like my own abilities of doing a good job at videography based
on your
off
work productivity.
Work productivity is one, and then the other side, if I send a video and if the client loves it, or hey, it was good day or bad day, and it's like, if it's not like, oh my god, like a great response, it's like, oh, I will get sad that day. Like I will judge my happiness based off someone else's perception of, not to sound, for lack of a better phrase, like art or whatever. No, and that's
bad.
That's so bad.
That's so bad, and I am 1,000% guilty of it as well.
Sure.
If I send a mix off,
right,
and I'm like,
totally.
I nailed this, and then the list of touch ups comes back. We need this higher. We need this lower. Can we change the kick sound a little bit? We're not loving it anymore. Like.
And everyone's different. Like,
yeah.
And that band or that example, they could still love the track, and they're just giving valid notes or just nitpicky notes or whatever it is. But I guess maybe because I'm a newer professional at it, and I so badly, like you said earlier.
It's not because you're newer. It never goes away.
It never goes away.
You have to
gets worse.
consciously focus on it, and that's why I'm telling it to you right now.
That's good advice then. Okay, that makes me feel better too. But it's just like sending off a project and that waiting of the response, and then, like you said, I guess it never gets easier, but I got to actively work on it. So that's good to know.
Do as I say, not as I do. Which, by the way, this is a phenomenal Moscow Mule.
Thank you. If you want another one, let me know. I don't know if you're a 2-cocktail guy, because I'll have 2 or 9.
I think 12 more and then driving into the night.
Would you like another one?
Nah.
I'll make another one.
I shouldn't.
Do you want half of one?
I shouldn't.
Okay.
I shouldn't. But it was delightful. You nailed it.
Thank you. That ginger beer was delicious,
dude. I might leave most of it here with you, but I think
no. Take it home.
I have to take some for the road because it's so good.
It's so good. It's spicy.
It also if you like it with that, try it with Spreckers. Spreckers is really good.
I don't think I've tried Spreckers.
Spreckers.
I usually get the one with the seal, Gosling.
I think it's Gosling's good. Gosling. There's also Fever Tree is a good one.
Fever Tree's underrated. That's what I get for my their club soda or their tonic.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried a Jamaican ginger beer?
No.
That's kind of pineapple-y. It's an interesting taste on a Moscow Mule. It's funny because now we're talking about the cocktails, which were the first part.
Hey, full circle.
There's different variations on it. You know, there's a Kentucky Mule, which is done with like a bourbon.
That's bourbon.
Yep.
Hence the Kentucky.
There's a Caribbean Mule, which is done with spiced rum.
It's got to be rum. I think Moscow has a version too, with the vodkas.
With the vodkas. Well, and the funny thing is that it's Smirnoff vodka, and Smirnoff is not from Russia.
It's what?
The Smirnoff vodka is not from
That's
Russia.
not Russian?
Well, it's a Russian word, but it's not from Moscow.
Those marketing geniuses. I thought it was a Russian vodka. Because it's called Smirnoff.
Okay. Time out while we do our research.
Time out. I'm going to make another cocktail. I'll be right back.
Never mind. I lied. We're taking that whole last part out. It was founded in Moscow. The Smirnoff brand began with a vodka distillery, but the modern incarnation traces back to the 1930s by an American liquor distributor named Hybelin. The original name is Russian, but the modern variation, like what we think of when we think of Smirnoff vodka, dates back to the 1930s.
Actually, if we keep the podcast going, you're in my city every Christmas, so I
at the very least,
I like for this to be a ongoing once a year check-in.
Well, also, what if you did it on the road, man? What if you go to the home bases of some of these creatives you want to talk to?
That's kind of the rough idea. Is like if I do a music video with the band and we're jiving, come on the show. Let's talk about your band and your project and maybe the music video and. Keep it going from there.
I selfishly want to see you talk to. Well, our paths creatively, have crossed for a long time.
Okay.
And now you do a lot of videos for artists that I do songs for.
Yes.
So you shoot a lot of music videos for songs that I produced.
Correct.
And vice versa. You'll meet artists and then send them to me.
Mm-hmm.
Good harmony. I really selfishly want to hear what some of these people have to say.
Oh, like they just talk shit on you the entire time.
Yeah. I just
hey,
want
Kevin,
I just want to get all those bullets loaded up in the chamber, so the next time they come into my studio, I'm going to be like, I heard what you said.
I can fully confidently say that every band that you have floated my way has been talk behind your back in the nicest way. It's been nothing but good marks.
You do realize it goes the opposite way too. They
hate you.
No. Every single person that I work with that has worked with you, I'll say, Mike is the sweetest human being.
That's flattering.
Wait. And there's that. How do you say it as creative professionals? We crave.
Oh yeah, it was like whatever it was I said like maybe 6 months ago. We crave affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Or I was talking about myself, like I crave affirmation. Like, please tell me I'm good enough. And the moment someone gives me a compliment, I want to kick them in the face. please tell me I'm good. You're so good. Shut the hell up. It's a weird paradox.
I don't handle compliments well. I also
Same.
don't, when somebody gives me a really sweet gift.
But I want them so bad. What's up with that? Like, please compliment me. I get a compliment and I can't stand it. I will change the subject if someone wants to tell me something nice.
True or false? If somebody does something really nice for you or shows like appreciation for what you've done in a sweet way, you just want to. My wife got me a really sweet 40th birthday present, which was going to the Galactic Star Cruiser, which you got to join us on that trip.
Yes, it was great.
It was amazing. Michael, my wife, and I went to space.
Which that guy went like 2 or 3 times. He's a huge
I
guy.
understand he found some wars among the stars.
He did, just like us, baby.
And then he died from being tired.
Yeah, no. When you get a compliment, it makes you feel. I don't know. It might be an insecurity thing, but so I did the worst thing in the world then to you when I quit my job and I.
No, she made the reservation and everything and gifted it to me and said, just so you know, this is what I did. I spent, thousands of dollars on this trip.
Aww.
And I was wearing a hoodie at the time and I pulled the hood up and just tightened the strings and curl. Like I'm 6'3", so I can't curl myself up in a little ball, but I can curl into a big ball. And I curled into a big ball.
Yes.
I was like, I don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do with my extremities. I didn't know what to do with my face or my hands or my voice. Or I couldn't handle it. I don't handle, like, I like, again, the affirmation and the appreciation and the respect and like, they're all wonderful, but as soon as you get them,
It's too much.
Handle it. No, it's too much. It's like you shut down.
Or it's either I shut down or I don't like fully believe it. I'm just like, thanks, man.
Or you're like, no, come on, stop
it. Yeah. Well, because I think the opposite of it feels arrogant to me. Like if you're complimenting me and I'm like, that's right. Like that feels so conceited.
Hey, Mike, you're a phenomenal videographer,
that's
sir.
Right. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You don't even understand how good I am. Yeah. Like to me, like it's like either act like that or you brush it off. Like I can't find the sweet spot. Like, oh, cool.
Like, I can be anything but my authentic self in this moment. I have to be this character that I've created. That's just like an incredible douchebag.
That's what I'm trying to nail down. Like next year, I keep thinking about like just trying to be more like authentic in everything you do.
How many people are just like, take the damn compliment?
Yeah, right. But
it's not that hard. Mike, you're an incredible husband and father. Stop
it.
And see, that's how you can tell that it's not just the creative aspect of your life. It's just you in general.
I try to be a nice guy. I try to be good. I try to get better.
Pass me that notepad really quick.
No.
Just really quick. Okay. Tell me about your childhood.
Dude, you are a good like therapist type friend.
Don't you love how the bookmark is sticking out the top here?
Yes. You're a very nice person to talk to.
No, I'm not.
You are.
No,
you
I'm
are.
not. Stop.
It's just gonna end so weird. I appreciate the deep dive and that was solid advice. That again to selfishly talk about the Henthorn Media podcast, as we're calling it, like that's what I exactly want to get out of this is talking to people walking the walk and like help. What knowledge can I pull out of you? Like that is like I'll be thinking about
so
this.
Full circle now because you're saying that, and what I'm taking from that is because you don't just want it for yourself. You might think you just want it for yourself, but if you're putting it on a podcast and you're sharing it out there, you obviously want to help other people.
100%.
You finally come full circle, like I started to do in 2012 and 2013.
Oh no!
where you find that you have a talent and an ability that people appreciate.
Yeah.
And you want to do something to give back. You want to you want to share. You want to impart. And like you've reached that point now. You've come, and this is why we're friends, Mike. Because like how many people have come in my studio and had very similar conversations while we were working on very comparable music in terms of the quality of it. I'm not trying to be like, oh, your band was just like somebody else. But like I've worked with a lot of really talented people that have come in and we've had very similar conversations to what you and I had in the studio. And not very many of them are now running their own successful small business as creative professionals. And that just I feel like you got it and maybe it's gonna be more in the future now, because you were right there at the cusp when things were starting to turn for me, and I was starting to refocus on what was so fulfilling about my job at that point. And maybe hopefully down the road I'm gonna get to see more people come out and be like, yeah, those sessions with Kevin really inspired me, because that would be such a wonderful thing to hear and then shrivel up into a ball over.
Yes. Well, again,
we crave it.
In the theme of blowing smoke, like that's why I told you in person I quit my job, because I'm 33 right now.
You drove.
I drove 3.5
hours down, and I got a motion notification from my Ring security camera that somebody had showed up in my driveway. I opened the door and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" And you're like, "I came here to tell you I quit."
Dude, that was my I got signed to a record deal moment for me. Like working a corporate job that I
did tell you for more than a year that you were ready to spread your wings and fly.
A lot, like the last 2 years, like when you're gonna quit your job. So you kept asking it, and I was like, whenever that day comes, I have to tell you in person. But I was on the phone with my mom like 6 months ago, and she asked me, she's like, so like you're gonna do this thing full time soon? She's like, who really pushed this? Like, was it Dad? Is it your wife? And I was like, I genuinely thought about it. I took a beat and I go, you know what? It was Kevin. It was 100% Kevin when I was 21 years old, trying to get signed or whatever that dream was. I was like, that set me on this path of like, I know I don't want to die in an office. Like, I gotta do something creative. So like, I had to tell you in person. Maybe it was cheesy, but I was just like, dude, like I did the thing, and it was 100% because of your guidance and all that. Not to get too cheesy, but like to cap it off, like you changed my life in that way. From recording music to now, like, dude, my daily routine is like working with bands and doing music videos, working with killer artists, doing weddings. I never thought I'd do weddings. I love doing that, and I'm making a living as a creative. And it's in its infancy, but like it's a blast. So thank you.
I'm not
Come on.
gonna cry. I'm too macho for that.
but dude, like it's the best. It's the best.
It's so fulfilling. Like I don't know what to do with the joy inside of me right now.
There's 1,000 different ways I can say that, and I hope it's coming across well. But that's why I had to visit you.
Is this what Ebenezer Scrooge felt like at the end of A Christmas Story?
Yes. A Christmas Story. Yeah.
Do I need to throw 6 pence at you and tell you to go buy the fattest turkey in the shop down the street so we can have Christmas dinner?
You might, man. But it's good. It's full circle, and
but it's also it's not just you, because like, again,
totally.
I worked with Colby Moore when his the only thing he wanted to do was be a screamer in a band.
I forgot.
And then he became a photographer who shot a picture that inspired you and your wife to travel halfway around the world.
And now I'm trying to. He won't watch this, but I'm trying to like work up the courage to I don't know how to phrase it, but reach out to Colby and be like, hey man, can I make you a commercial or shoot you shooting? Like, how do I be your video side of your stuff? Because he's so good.
How can I help sell you? Like that's the thing. He is so talented.
He's so good.
His website already advertises himself so well.
He's made
talk
it, yeah.
about a creative professional. Like this part doesn't even need to be in here. We can edit this out. I don't care. This is the part where we just gush over Colby Moore. Talk about a guy that like has created a business out of showing people a dream they didn't know they had.
Well said.
Think about that, because his adventure photography / elopement photography is like, okay, so you and the love of your life are getting engaged and you're going to get married. What if you got married on the crater of a volcano in Iceland? And what if we had like costume designs for the dresses and everything? Like he created a dream that people wanted that they didn't even know.
It's brilliant, because it's like it goes without saying, but it's like you can shoot a music video and you can make it as badass as you think you can, But what makes, I swear, like 90% of a cool video, besides the performance and story and all that, it's like, are you in a cool location? And that's what he does so well, is he finds the most beautiful location and then drops his subject in the middle of it and makes like a borderline masterpiece.
Because here's your subject.
It's so good.
Here's your story, and here's the backdrop for that story.
Yeah.
Why is a love story so much more epic when it's on, you know, the slopes of a volcano or in a rainforest or on a glacier?
It's so good because I'm locked in my basement all day, as similar to you in your studio.
How many windows you got in here?
I got more windows than you. I have 4 windows, but they're little. We're a small basement.
But that's why you're still sane. I'm completely off the deep end.
Yeah, I'm not a lunatic.
There's no hope for me. Run.
But anyways, you'll be on your phone and he's like, oh, he's in Iceland or in the Dolomites again, and it's just or in Hawaii.
Or he makes a post where he's like, who wants to come with me to Yosemite and shoot Firefall? I'm like, oh my gosh.
I don't know how to reach out to him, and like I genuinely want to be like, if it works for your business, but without sounding like the biggest mooch ever. Like, hey, you know how you're super well established and low-key, almost famous in the photography
Do you know what would be even better?
How do I piggyback off
you? Do you know what would be even better than capturing this beautiful occasion? Is if you had me on the side capturing this beautiful occasion.
That's the angle. It's like, let me like make you a commercial or something, or shoot for free.
See, we can make fun of it all day long, but I think it would be awesome.
I think it could work,
to see what goes into getting up at like 4:00 in the morning to get to these locations and get people dressed in with the makeup and everything.
I did comment on one of his posts the other day where he posted a picture of the Dolomites, and the mountains look beautiful. Mm-hmm. And even as a professional videographer, when Sarah and I went to the Dolomites in September, we went to see this church, and it had the mountains in the background. I was like, oh, let's go there. It'll be great. It was a whole thing. And we did it. It was like a nice day. We went around 1:00, fine. We go to the church, no mountains. You can't see a mountain. And I'm like, why? And then I've learned slowly, you got to wake up at like dawn when the clouds aren't fully engulfing these mountains, you know? So Kobe posts a picture of the Dolomites, and I'm like, I think Sarah and I didn't wake up early. Like, but I didn't even know it was a thing, you know?
That son of a bitch. He had the secret sauce, and he didn't share it.
It's probably like for him in like that business of scenic or landscape photography, a basic thing to know, but we didn't know it. So he's like, yeah, dude, like early bird gets the worm. And I was like, I didn't know. So, but you brought up a good point, like Peter McKinnon style, like show the story of that day, like 4 a.m. wake up, bags pre-packed, 5-mile hike, whatever it is, and then make a nice, I don't know, 5-minute story of that day. Like that would be fun. That would be fun.
That's the thing about what you're doing. Again, this portion of the podcast has now become we're just gushing.
We're gushing.
You do such a good job telling people stories.
Thank you.
You did such a good job.
Yes. I did it.
I help people create this fabrication of a sound that's in their head, whether or not it's actually physically obtainable in a sonic realm. But you're a true wizard.
I don't want to sound like Christopher Nolan, but that's an accurate comparison.
I worked with a band one time that did a music
too far.
But I worked with a band one time that did a music update video, and it was absolutely brilliant because you just had to know these guys. But they're like, what we're creating isn't anything that's really been done before. It's like a new kind of music. It's like Michael Jackson, but better. And,
that's so good.
And then they're like, things that inspired this album are, the Keebler Elf, Winnie the Pooh.
That's brilliant.
Completely stone-faced serious. And this was a metalcore band.
That's brilliant.
Just like saying this.
Gosh, I love that. To pull off that, like, I think A Day to Remember did that really well. They did like this studio, like the Homesick and What Separates Me From You era of like their vlogs were Like I could watch them with like my dad and laugh. Like they were just solid.
Which album was it where they made you think they were going to do like a folk Americana thing, and then they got to like part 5, and they were like, "Are you kidding? This isn't a Day to Remember album." Then they finally show what they're actually tracking. They spent probably it must have been hours, because these
Did actually record songs?
No. To move instruments into the studio space.
Okay, gotcha.
And make it look like they were actually miking up like weird like weird djembes and like different we're going for a different sound here, and then like sitting there playing weird riffs on the acoustic guitars, and it's like,
was it Blink-182's I think Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, where they showed the label just the joke songs off that record?
Mm-hmm.
and then pawned it off like, this is the record.
Yep.
Did they? I wonder if they actually did that. Like, I know they said that in interviews, but if they did, that's money.
I hope they did.
Right?
I want to believe that there's still that level of joy in the world that can be had at the expense of the suits.
It makes almost too good of a story.
Right. While still creating something that was
like,
iconic.
I don't know if you watch, like I did 100 times, like the making of the self-titled record, where they have like the studio execs there, and Mark walks in the room and throws the papers everywhere, and the studio guy's all mad, and I'll watch that. I'm like, that probably was planned, but it was still great regardless. And I love that stuff. Like that, it's like an hour long, but it's them like making the record in the house. Like, that's like a dream project of mine. Find a band and just show the making of a record like that. Because even like that Blink-182 self-titled record was super, I don't know, like unproduced, like just kind of like casual, you know? It wasn't like super edited. It was just like them doing their thing.
It was so weird compared to everything. And also, it was also still Jerry Finn.
Yeah.
R.I.P. But man, like, look at the range on that dude as a producer to be like, okay, we're going to do SoCal pop punk that's very rigid, that's very polished, that's very, like, you know, by the numbers almost. And then we're going to do this record that's, like, raw and, like, self-reflective and just a completely different approach and vibe. Like,
right.
So cool. And, like, and you, if they hadn't captured the making of that record,
yeah,
would that record hit on that exact same level all these years later?
Interesting.
Like, you can listen to it and you can appreciate it, but like, it's almost like with the supplemental material and knowing how, like, and it's anything too. Watch a making behind the scenes of the Lord of the Rings.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off, but I love that you brought that up, because I think, like, I love the making of records, but I think my love of that started with, like, how they made Star Wars or how they made Lord of the Rings. Like, just, like, when I was a kid, that's when, like, the DVDs first came out. We're like, bonus features, what's this? And you can see George Lucas make The Phantom Menace in 1999. I was like, and I would watch that more than the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, seeing them, like, train for the lightsaber battles or whatever. So like, there's nothing better than like seeing a band, like you're watching the making of a record, like, oh shit, like that turned into that song, you know? Like that's me like the coolest feeling.
The very impetus of this song.
Like hearing the idea, like that's when Mark came up with the "I miss you" line. That's where Tom got excited when he came up with that riff. And then you hear the record in your car the next day and you're like, I know how they did this. Like, that's the best. What's better than that?
You're peeling back the curtain and you're witnessing the greatness of geniuses.
Peter Jackson, baby.
Mm-hmm.
All-time favorite producer?
I don't know. I don't think I can pick just one. I think I can narrow it down. I got to go with Eric Valentine.
Smash Mouth Boy.
Jerry Finn.
Nice.
And probably going to throw Quincy Jones in there.
Dang. Nicely done.
Quincy Jones did so much for pop music.
He's one of those producers where the name's so big that I don't realize how much he's done. I'm
going to throw one more in there. Late entry. I'm going to throw Don Gilmore.
I'm not familiar with Don Gilmore.
Don Gilmore is the man behind Lit's A Place in the Sun and Linkin Park's first 2 records.
Oh, no kidding.
Like the dude changed the game going from the 90s to the 2000s. Eric Valentine, incredibly well-rounded. I mean, Eric Valentine's doing everything from Smash Mouth and Third Eye Blind's self-titled.
Yeah.
To When the World Comes Down by All American Rejects, one of the hardest hitting pop records ever produced. To Nickel Creek and
I didn't know Eric
and
Valentine
Grace Potter.
He did Nickel
and,
Creek?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Their two most recent records.
He didn't do the okay.
Three most recent records.
Okay.
Like, I mean, he like so every and Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf.
So okay, I'm not familiar with his whole catalog. I know like Smash Mouth and
he is so
the Reject record.
So well rounded. Quincy Jones, obviously like pop and soul from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, just like a god.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry Finn, like he's the pop punk king. The sound of my youth.
Yeah.
Like, because Blink-182 is good with Dude Ranch, Mark Trombino, who also did Jimmy Eat World's Bleed American, another great record.
That's right.
But the first time I heard Enema of the State, these guitars, these drums, like they were captured. And that was, I mean, it was twofold, I guess, because it was Jerry Finn working with Tom Lord Alge to create these crazy sounds that became like the staple of pop punk.
Tom Lord Alge.
It's
Tom and Chris.
There's a third mixing brother, I believe Jeff.
Tim. But
he hasn't done anything.
Dude, it was like when Best Buy used to have CDs. It's like every one of the records I would buy, I would turn over and see either Tom or Chris. It was one or the other. I was like, who are these guys that are mixing every record?
They're very competitive brothers who mix aggressively.
Who's the older brother? Is it Tom?
I believe it's Chris. I might be crazy.
I'm not sure.
I've been fortunate.
They never mixed one of my records.
I've been fortunate enough to meet them both, and I don't know.
You met them?
Yeah, I got to meet them both at different.
Was that
shows.
a NAMM?
Yep.
Yeah. Was it like a casual like?
I have pictures with them. They did little workshop and a little talk. Just very 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 low key. Nothing like a Q&A panel and some stuff. Didn't go.
They seem like they're nice guys.
They simultaneously were like some of the nicest people ever. But I was also like, man, I bet behind closed doors, like you're really sick and tired of this bullshit. But I appreciate you smiling through this.
Hey man, the fact that they have fans is pretty cool. Like they don't make records, they just, or maybe they produce. I'm not sure, but I just thought they just mixed. Yeah, so that's insane.
But I mean, to be so good at something that most people don't really think about, that's phenomenal. Like,
they're arguably the reason that like they've been responsible for like almost every one of my favorite records.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they hit. It's like I love Angels and Airwaves, and I think he did. I think Chris did the first two, I Empire, or We Don't Need to Whisper and I Empire, and those records to me are like untouchable. Like I love those first two records, and even though like Love Part 1 and Part 2 and everything they did afterwards is good, they don't hit
the same
like those first two. Like those, I don't. This is a poor way of explaining it, but those first two records feel real. Like those are real records, and the rest feel like nice accomplishments. And I love those other records, but like those first two they hit so much different. Like they sound so good. It's got to be the mixing.
I produced I Empire and mixed it right.
Do better.
Crap, not I Empire. What was the third record? Sorry, I was going for a bit.
They did
I mixed those crappy records.
They did Love on the Love after that.
Yeah, I mixed it. It was me.
Which might be one of the most disappointing records I've listened to, because I was such a fan of I Empire, and if you know that record, it ends with Tom singing, "Please stay, don't go, I got you now. Are you curious?" And when I was 17, I was like, that's the coolest way to end a record I've ever heard. The third record's going to be amazing. And it just wasn't. It was fine.
It was a nice fat raspberry.
It's not a bad record, but it's not the first two. I digress. Sorry. I'm rambling. I love those records.
This is all going to get cut out.
Probably.
This is all getting cut out.
I'm at the stage now where I'm just having a good time. It's weird how, like, full transparency, like the first 15 minutes, it's a little nerve-wracking. This is the first podcast, it feels like to make eye contact with a fellow human and just hold a conversation, especially with a microphone and headphones. You're very locked in. It's a little strange, is it not?
You know, I wasn't hyper aware of it until you said that, and now just
Now you feel weird, and I feel good.
weird. Yeah,
maybe that's why.
it's probably why you made the second cocktail.
No, I was already good. Now I'm just good. But maybe that's why I have the first cocktail as part of the show. Let's ease into it a bit.
Let's ease into it.
You know what I got to do is when a guest comes over, have the first cocktail off camera, and have the second cocktail the start of the show.
I think you need to get a camera set up when you make the cocktail. I really want to see you make the cocktail.
So the way I'm going to start the show is me making the cocktail, like picture like a camera just on like the cup, you know, and I'm just going to show the ingredients. And the idea is if someone wants to watch the Kevin W. Gates podcast and enjoy with us, they can make the cocktail at home. And then
I love that.
And then press play on the episode and go, I'm drinking exactly what they're drinking. Here's the ginger beer we use. Here's the vodka we use. Here's the ingredients. Here's exactly what we're drinking. So they can sit down and be a part of the show. So I was going to film it that way, but you bring up a good point where it's like maybe show like us making it together, and that's not a bad idea.
I don't know. You've sold me on your way.
But both can still work, because I was just talking about the outcome. Because I was going to make it super boring just showing the drink, but you're like, make the drink with the guest. Kids.
Hellions. Hellions.
And then another good reason for doing this, too, is you get to secretly judge your guests based off their selection. Like, this was a very good cocktail.
I hope this is a good conversational cocktail.
This is the standard, man. And again, you didn't, just to be clear, Kevin didn't say a Moscow Mule. You said Cock and Bull ginger beer.
Yep.
It's got to be Smirnoff vodka, have limes, of course, and there should be some mint, which I dropped the ball on. That's on me.
It's okay, because you still mixed it wonderfully. Like this is the best mule I've had in quite some time.
Hey.
And this is a mule that didn't need any like extra to it. Like it's ice and limes now. Like
that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't taste as good anymore now because it's like melted lime juice.
I am an amateur mixologist.
But
it is a hobby.
this didn't need hibiscus or anything like that. There's a place I go in Springfield, like near my home and studio, where they make a hibiscus mule, and it's like, oh, it's got the flower fragrance and stuff in there. But it's like, this doesn't need that. This is pure.
It's the ginger beer.
This is pure unadulterated joy.
I'm gonna bring, if you leave me a bottle of the Cock and Bull ginger beer to Christmas, and that's gonna be like a new standard.
Yes,
because we were doing the Gosling, and then we did the Fever Tree, and that beats it. That's the best.
It's awesome. It's the sharpness of the ginger in it is what puts it over the top.
That's
and
it.
Makes it mesh with the vodka so much.
I think that's full circle. Shall we call it?
Call it.
Dude, thank you.
You're cutting
this. This was fun.
Half of this was fun. Half of this is gonna get cut off. That was so weird. Here, let's reach.
Dude, that was so much fun. Come on. All right.
Okay.
See you guys.